Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome to this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell and I'm joined by my co-host as always, Marky D, Mark Davison. Mark, how you doing on this sprightly Sunday morning?
Yeah, not too bad, Matty. How you doing? What's happening in your neck of the woods? Same as me.
Kinda. I think we're both pretty fortunate. We're near the beach, so at least that's within our realms of what we're allowed to do with these lockdowns. You know, Jared Devil's first in the live chat. I think he was first in last week too. If I'm not. Oh no, George Tester might have been. Anyway, Jared Devil, you've been in pretty fast, pretty quick last couple of weeks. So good on you, mate. But yeah, no, it's cold, man. I want it to be summertime. I'm done with this winter thing.
It's getting close though, Matty. Real close. We got the Hall of Fame game coming around the corner. Preseason, we had the official depth chart came out today, which means it doesn't really mean too much in some aspects of it. We're only a month away from the real football until we beat the Bills.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, it's Sunday for us. We're always like 14 something hours, plus into the future. So we're joining you guys on your Saturday night on the East Coast, late Saturday afternoon on the West Coast. That's Sunday morning for Mark and I. So look, last week we talked a little bit around, we talked a lot around, players that were coming off contract. So players in the last year of their deal, and were they star, surprise, or slip for the Steelers? And interestingly enough, Mark and I didn't have as much overlap as what we anticipated going into the show. So what we thought we'd do is do a little bit of it this week. But the fun thing is that I had Vince Williams on my list, Mark. I really wanted to talk around Vinny Vitavici this week after, we lost him and then we got him back. And then, and we kind of needed to lose him because his salary cap was going to be a massive impediment to being able to do things on the roster. Mate, I can't imagine how you must have been feeling when you saw Vince Vitavici retired. Like, I can't imagine the reaction when you woke up to that notification.
Well, that's the funny thing, and we said it before, like, because we live in Australia, it's so weird. That news would have came out, I believe, maybe 4 p.m. probably around this time, right? 4 or 5 p.m. On the East Coast or near dinner time. So you guys would have had that news long before I did. So I woke up and I was looking through Facebook, and then I see Adam Schefter, Vince Williams retired. And I went, oh man, like that, like it's a similar one to when I saw James Harrison go be a Patriot, or with Brown being a Patriot, or something like that. This really, you can't put words to it. You just think I thought Vince Williams was going to have one more year, and really ride out this year and win a Super Bowl. His Steeler presence and Steeler mentality is some of the funnest football to watch. Like, he's just a run stopper. He nails people. He doesn't get too involved in social media. He just runs people over, and he was really like a great player to watch. And I don't know if Melvin Ingram coming into the Steelers, that might have affected Vince Williams' playtime, because he can play inside linebacker as well. What do you reckon? Like, what time did you find out? I found out about this time, like 9 a.m. when I woke up.
Yeah, I think I saw it like 7 or 8 a.m. or what have you. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say I predicted that would happen. I'm not going to do that. But I don't know. I'm not crazy surprised. Like, I don't know. Like, I figured this would probably be his last year. Like, he didn't get a lot of interest from other teams, and he might have been waiting it out, like, before the Steelers were able to bring him back. I think he wanted to come back a Pittsburgh Steeler. But it kind of makes sense, because when they brought him back, I remember thinking, oh, man, maybe he's just going to see, like, if Devin Bush is back or not, and that, that might decide his season. Does he want to play behind Spillane and Buddy Johnson? We're hearing reports. I woke up to reports this morning. Spillane, had a one-handed interception. And, we know from Beckham Jr. that one play doesn't make a career, but like particularly in, training camp. But I think when you think about those sorts of things, maybe you just sort of thought, hey, and, I don't want to put my body through it. I'm not doing it for as much money as I thought I was going to do it. Steelers are set with the inside linebacker position. Bush got cleared this week, to go back to full practice. Buddy Johnson, I think, is going to surprise a lot. And Spillane's developing and he's got a good head on his shoulders and, can do what Vince does and it's got a bit more speed to burn. So, yeah, like it makes sense. I mean, I think if you look at another player that we've managed to keep in like Tyson Aluwalu, who's more crucial this year? Is it Aluwalu or Vince? The problem for me though is Vince is another vocal leader that we don't have anymore. So like it just ups the ante for the other guys that we've talked about, both young and old, through this offseason to actually deliver, in terms of leadership and pumping the Steelers up this season. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But, we need someone to step up as a run thumper. Spillane did that with Derrick Henry on that play last year. We can't expect that throughout the whole season. So, I think the pressure's on here with Buddy Johnson to step up. But you bring up Melvin Ingram, who I'm happy to put on the list as well for this week because, look, massive fan of Melvin Ingram. A lot of people know that I started out my NFL fandom, with a lens of looking, at the Chargers while I was watching the Steelers, because I was a teenager and my parents got me a Chargers jersey. But Melvin Ingram, and so I've always kind of watched what they've done. And Melvin Ingram is someone that the stats, because of a few injuries, don't really demonstrate how good he is. And he is so versatile. Like if you're playing a 4-3, you can play him at defensive end, you can play him inside. And I think that's the cool thing now is that, and I think it was talked about potentially on the preview this week, around, or it was one of the shows about, Melvin Ingram. I might have been Dave and Jeff when they predicted the roster. But, you could see situations where Melvin Ingram, Alex Highsmith, and TJ Watt are all on the field at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I can see him in the middle linebacker, or he could be opposite TJ. He could take TJ's spot. It's good to bring a guy in like Melvin Ingram. Not saying he's going to replace Vince Williams, but you got to give a shout out as well to Vince Williams. He's played 8 years as a Steeler, and now that I'm starting to love this team even more, 18 years I think I've been following them now. All the players I started watching are starting to leave us. The only real guy there is Big Ben. So that's interesting to see how we're turning a new page into Steeler history with our new O-line, some new defensive guys. We love guys like TJ, but I think we'll miss Vince Williams, just that leadership, and it was just so fun to watch. Like nothing better than watching him crack someone, and just I can't even imagine, Matty, how hard he hit those players. I wouldn't there's no way. I know there are some big tacklers out there, but he was a huge human being coming down the A gap or the B gap and then running over the fullback, and some of the bull rushes he did, I saw in some highlights recently. He takes on men twice the size of him, runs over them, then gets the quarterback. He wasn't always there on every down, but yeah, he's I used to like when he played with Lawrence Timmons, those two together. Not the fastest guys, but they were big brutes.
Speaking of big brutes, it's been brought up in the live chat by BMK Bully Mob Kennel. Did y'all watch the Tomlin conference? Apparently, Finney and JC got hurt while Kendrick Green was out for personal reasons. Yeah, look, I don't take too much stock into a lot of that. I mean, it does sort of affect, someone like Haskins getting reps. Kendrick's going to be back tomorrow. I saw Tomlin say, Finney and JC, well, I don't have a lot of time for JC. I don't think he's going to do anything. So fine with Finney. I'm sure they've got other guys that can spot the football as well. Maybe give Canada a few extra reps. I don't know, to spot, to do that, to snap the football. But I don't see that as the big issue. And then earlier in the chat, I think it was might have been Daredevil that brought up Dan Moore Jr. Just taking a break from these 4 off-contract players. I'm really high on Dan Moore Jr. This is the same as what I was like on Highsmith last year. I think he's going to have to step up, whether there's a niggling injury or something's going to happen. I really like him, so I'm excited by the preseason in terms of him getting some reps. I know the Steelers, obviously, the other news this week was that they signed Chaz Green, who unfortunately has led in 6 sacks before in one game against the Atlanta Falcons. So we need a guy like Dan Moore Jr. to step up. So, I don't mind him getting into scuffles with, I think he got into it with Haywood and Loudermilk. Good on you, mate. Like, the thing is these players, I mean, you even talk about Cam Haywood, right? Like, he was asked questions in one of the press conferences this week about, Devin Bush and what have you. And as Jedevil brings up with, iron sharpening iron, as Mike Tomlin likes to say, I don't care. These are grown men. If they're going to be that physical with their own teammates, look out when they start playing other teams. I don't know about you, Mark. What do you reckon about these sort of training scuffles and sideline scuffles?
It doesn't mean anything. It's like you said, it's grown men. It's 90. There are 90 odd adult men who have high egos, and they're all physically, like I said, brutes, and they want to kill each other. And they've had a really crazy year where they couldn't do it last year in the preseason. Let them. Like, nothing's going to happen out of it. Like, the guys won't, hate each other, or, they won't disband each other as friends. This just happens. Like, this happens, I think, in our schooling days too. You kind of just got into fights, and you let your two mates fight it out, and then they both wore themselves out, and then they got tired and they had a beer together. That's the Australian thing that we used to do. Now, for me, I used to just spectate and egg that on. I never got involved in the fights. I'm not getting involved in that.
Oh, you're one of those ones, eh?
He called you this. Oh, did you hear about what he said about your mum and stuff like that? But look, it doesn't mean anything. I've been trying to press this issue for a while. It's competition. So if that depth chart comes out and you're the fifth person and you go on the internet and you're the receiver or you're the O-line guy, then you want to win the job. That's what you want to do. So if it's hard for to win the quarterback job because you're not going to be Big Ben, but it's all about competition. Damn more, as long as you don't get into scuffles every single practice, you can't build a good team around that. But once in a while, it's fine.
You're one of those people egging it on the sidelines. I was the guy.
Sneaky, mate. I'm very sneaky.
I was the guy that didn't start it, and would have to pull a mate back or something like that. You get involved, you're sort of there, doing the not happening kind of thing. And when in my rugby days, one of the years we had this smallest guy on the field, the halfback, the scrum half, right, and little sort of niggly player, and kind of think of him like a slot corner in defense, or a lot of, sort of a Swiss Army knife, running back in offense. And he used to stir all the big boppers up from the other team and punch him, on the ground and stuff like that. And then all of us bigger guys had to go in and defend him, and he'd sort of stand behind us as a wall. He used to really grind our gears. It was just let's get on with it.
I wouldn't do that. I won't fight now because there's no way I'll probably survive. But in my younger days, 5-10 years ago, I've been in one where, I pick my person. I don't choose the biggest guy like it's Kevin Dotson. I choose someone who looks like me, is the same similar build. And if they want to tussle, then it happens. But it's not, there's no way that I go around and go, hey, Kevin Dotson, let's fight about something. Look, it doesn't mean anything. A bit like the depth chart. It doesn't mean anything right now. Wait until we do the Hall of Fame game, and even then, it probably won't mean anything. Just wait until the preseason progresses and we start to see these guys make plays, and yeah, it's exciting times. This is what we want out of these Steelers to get fired up. That's it.
So look, let's go on to Melvin Ingram, right? We talked a little about him there with Vince Williams. I've talked about him before, Mark. You and I have talked about him. I've talked about him on War Room and all the rest of it. Everyone was super high on Justin Houston, and I get Justin Houston's sack numbers are higher. But for you, right, because we've not really talked about, Melvin Ingram that much. He's not been a Steelers player. There's been no need to. But for you as a fan sitting there, you probably heard the name around the league. You may have seen him play a little bit. What was your feelings when you heard that the Steelers signed him? Because there's a lot of other, guys on the Draft Network, guys like Move the Sticks, Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks, they talk about Ingram, and Sherman before Sherman did, all the crazy things he's done in the last couple of weeks. But, as being really key defensive free agents that teams could sign, but it's about the right opportunity. So you wake up on Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, and you hear Melvin Ingram sign. What are you feeling there?
He's the old school linebacker, a bit like Vince Williams. I've seen him around the league, and he's done some really good things with the Chargers. I think he's done a few Pro Bowls, but the biggest thing I like about him is his passion. I was watching, and we all do this to Steelers fans. When they sign a player or they let go a guy, we jump into the highlights. We try and see, what he's going to bring to the Steelers. He was doing film breakdown with who's that bloke with a really weird finger?
Brian Baldinger.
Yeah. Oh, geez,
mate, how does he not get that fixed? I just want to pause you there. Mate, I had my index finger at one rugby game on a 45. It's still bent badly because while the physio was getting the strapping tape, I popped it back into place. But then I kept playing the game. But what? You made millions, mate. Why can't you fix it? Get it surgically fixed.
It's like that. He's like, hey, you over there. You're like, oh, which one? Is it me or this bloke behind me? Look,
I love his takes though. He's an analyst.
Oh, he's great. Baldinger and Kurt Warner there. I think I was talking to him about how Ingram plays, and his passion for the game is really good, and his instincts for the game are really good as well. Yeah. Oh, jeez.
I'm just trying to put you off.
I think is it Baldy got his finger caught in one of the helmets, didn't he?
Yeah.
Is that right? It got caught. I don't know how, but look, going back to Ingram, he is a very passionate player, and he's a veteran. I know there is injury history, but so what? Who cares? That's on his record. But if he can, contribute to the run blocking or or getting in there and stopping the run or getting after the quarterback, that's all we care about. And it's going to help. It helps that I know you attest to this as well. The outside linebacking position, it helps them a lot.
Yeah. I mean, this is it. And David, our champion from the UK. Hey, boys, my joint second favorite Aussies. Good day. Hope you're both good. So who's the first favorite? Or are we equal? Yeah. We're equal. That makes it second.
If you're not first, you're last.
That's Ricky it, mate. Mate, my late grandmother used to say, winning isn't everything, but no one likes losing.
Yeah. Or it sure is fun or something like that, right? Yeah. Look, that's a very good point though, because a lot of sport that we've played, right, you've got to go in with a winner's mentality. You have to go 100%. In with that. If you don't go in that you believe that you're not going to win with any of these players, any of these Steelers, then there's no point playing, because if you go in to lose, the way you play on the field, you'll lose. You won't pick off the interception. You won't get there fast enough. You won't get behind the sticks. You got to have that motivation. So I'm hoping this team can have that winning mentality too, every single game. And if we lose some, fair, but I want to see them put on the field.
Yeah. Do you know other saying my late grandmother, Mark? She had a saying that was, the people talk about money, right? And she'd be like, money doesn't buy you happiness. And she used to say, that's right, but I prefer misery and comfort.
Yeah, right. Hey, you're talking to a bloke who's still looking for a job, and if I could probably sit in this spot for 24 hours and just talk Steelers, and I'd be happy.
That's what I mean. That's the thing I talk about, the happiness, though. It depends what your life experience. So, Marky D, Owen's a big fan of Kylie Minogue. I wonder how many of our American listeners have heard about Kylie Minogue. Oh, Mark, are you there?
Just trying to make a point. No one cares about Kylie Minogue. Oh, are you kidding me? Oh, and David, what are you doing, mate? Are you joking? Oh, Jesus.
Anyway, let's get back to...
Put me as third, Owen.
Let's get back to Melvin Ingram. We're all over the shop today. We're doing a minker, just going right through the defense. But but with Melvin Ingram though, we talked about him a little bit there in terms of, coming into the Steelers, that difference, mature sort of player, looking to do different things. When I think about the injuries for Melvin Ingram as well, it's probably allowed us to sign him, because if he didn't have those injuries, he'd be making 7 or 8 mil with someone else. And I think we talk about the depth piece we bring in. The Steelers have got a history of bringing in guys like Kevin Green and, there's plenty of other players like Farrier, even to a degree. We brought him in. He was, he absolutely thrived for the Steelers. So I'm really hopeful. I mean, for me, I hope Melbourne Ingram surprises, if we're going to use our star surprise or slip, surprises some fans this season. And I'm also hoping that we can get another year out of him, maybe even next year, if he's happy to go around again. But Mark, do you think he'll star, surprise, or slip?
I reckon he'll star. Like, what's there not to like about him? Like I said, his history is there. Fair enough. Injury history is there. But this is the time that he's been in the league, I think 11 or is it 10 or 11 years? I think he's been there a long time. Yeah,
this will be his 11th, his 10th season.
Yeah, so a lot of players do this. They stay with their club for all their duration, and then they can't get the Super Bowl there, so they come to a great franchise like the Steelers, and then help us win a championship, and it gets him a Super Bowl ring as well. So we know with the Chargers too. The Chargers are funny. They have some really great talent. But there are games where you're just like, how are you making that play and why are you doing that? Or why in the playoffs they fell flat.
But their defense as well, like, he was part of a pretty decent defense that they've had over the last few years there. I mean, that's the difference with Melbourne Ingram too. Like, it's the offense that's let those Chargers down. It's not the defense.
Who's that bloke? Derwin James, right? I was pretty high on him. Like, he was really good safety, right, for the Chargers.
Well, yeah. Guys like Joey Bosa.
Yeah, I think the Chargers, like, it really, the best way I can describe the Chargers and what I was watching, there was one game where I saw they were up by like 14 points, and then to win the game, they lost 4 fumbles in a row or something. They turned the ball over 4 times, and they just lost the game. And it might have been versus the Browns. I can't remember who it was versus. However, another point for the Chargers, I think, with their season, their career, how they do things down there, we went into their home stadium and had 70% Steel fans, and we won that game.
Yeah.
Like, that says everything. They tried to rickroll us, and it helped. It gave it to our benefit. They played Renegade to trick us, and it fired us up. And then the Chargers are funny. Look, they got Herbert, but this gives, Ingram's going to be a Charger for life. But why can't he win one with us? It's going to help us for sure.
100%. The thing at the end of the day is, like, is Tom Brady, I'm not saying Melvin Ingram's going to have a Tom Brady impact on us the way that Tom has on the Buccaneers, but, like, is Tom Brady going to be remembered as a Buccaneer or a Patriot? He's going to be remembered as a Patriot, right? So, we're not saying that Melvin Ingram needs to be remembered as the greatest Steeler ever, and he's not going to be. But, I'm excited by the impact that he can give. And, even in 2 fairly injury, the last 2 seasons before his injury, he had more than 7 sacks. If he gets 7 sacks for us this year, that's tick box. That's job done from my point of view.
But the next player, how about TJ too? I'm just saying it's going to help out TJ as well. Exactly. It's going to give him a bit of a break.
Exactly. So the other player, one of the next players on my list was Ray McLeod. Now, a few weeks back, I sort of said Ray, was on my borderline what the heck 5. If you don't know what that is, you can go back and listen to that one. All right, he's on my list. I just have him slipping this season, Mark. I just have Ray slipping. I've got no confidence that he's necessarily going to break one. He didn't break one last year. People know what he can do. I don't know. I don't really think he's going to make much of a difference in the receiving game. We've got too many other people that are going to catch the football, whether it's Najee taking, more catching, targets, or not catching targets, but catching more balls across the targets versus what Connor's been doing. You've added Pat Freiermuth to the room. Claypool's coming out in his second year. We've talked about Deontay. We've talked about Washington being that 4th string backup there. I don't know. I don't know I can't see Ray doing anything more than he did last year, and I think that puts him on that slippery slope to slide down.
Yeah. Out of those 3 options, what is it, star, surprise, or slip? You'd have to choose slip. Like last year, I guess if you had the same question, then you would have been surprised. That would have been the best option, because we haven't had a good kick return doesn't really count anymore, because you can't do anything with the kick return. Not like the old Devin Hester days. It's more the punt return.
Yeah, we
had AB, we had Deontay took one back, and I believe that's the last time that we've had one taken back in like last 3 years. And Ray looked like he was going to do it a few times, and there was one really massive return. And look, I'm not a great runner, but I can kind of see where I'm running to. And all he had to do was just veer left, and then the old Duke, and he was in there. But I think maybe he's running too far in front of his feet, and he's getting tripped up, or because there was a decline last year with Ray Ray. He was doing really well, and we all loved him, and we're yelling out, Ray, let's go. And then he really did start to slip. So it's heading towards your camp, and I guess my camp as well, saying he is slipping because, look, if he doesn't show up and he's just a normal return guy back there, like to put this Steelers whole team for one more point of advantage would be a great kick return to get us on that 40 or 50 or even into the opposition 30, and this would all come full circle. So we'd love to see it, wouldn't we? We'd love to see him surprise us. But
this is the thing, like, and I probably did, could have put this better when we talked about it when we were doing that sort of what the heck 5 stuff. I'm not saying he's terrible or anything like it, but I just wonder, like, you think about back to AB, right? Or even, Steve Smith, from the Carolina that went to Baltimore and all that. They started out, yes, they were receivers, but they started out in the return game. And I just wonder, whether we're able to bring in a developmental wide receiver who can return the football. And it's probably not going to be this year. Like, they have signed Ray now. But next year, do we go look for a wide receiver that needs a bit of development? We know the wide receivers, the Steelers can coach them up. We can turn mid-round picks into stars, but we get someone in the return game that's going to make that difference. Because like every play as a fan, you get there, you wait, for them to do something really cool and break one, and they don't. And you're like, oh man, I got stung by that again. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
the only thing, Matty, is I would say in our defense saying that he's going to slip, well, if he's a kick return specialist and he's 5th on the depth chart, then he's not getting snaps at 4, 3, 2, and 1. So maybe for him to make this team, he has to excel in that position. So you know what I'm trying to say? So like if you've got all that time and that energy to put into that position, now it also comes down to Danny Smith chewing his gum. He's going to change his gum from spearmint to peppermint. What's he going to do? Like what's going to happen with, like, is he giving him the opportunity for these players to succeed? And we saw last year with the runs that he did, I think for me, he plays a little bit like McFarlane, that he's running too fast in front of his feet and he's not seeing the field like a Deontay Johnson or AB was a specialist at returning, but then he was also even better at receiver. So you had to save those reps for a receiver. Now, if he's going to surprise us, he's going to be 5th on the depth chart, and he's going to be returning the ball at great speed, and he's going to take that pride in just being that kick returner. And that can happen. But if he doesn't do that, then we just got a kick returner.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Like, there's not a lot of upside kind of thing. It's just
unless he can challenge Washington or the for the 3rd spot. But then if he does that, then who's going to be a kick returner? Like I just think sometimes you got to play into your role what you know best for the team. Yeah. You can't be a selfish player to like I want to be out there getting number 1 reps, but you're the best kick return guy. And I think like he knows that, like a lot of these guys on the depth chart, they know where they kind of sit and what they can challenge. But in saying all of that, if he runs one back for 2 or 3, we're happy. And we're like, I'm wrong, so it doesn't matter. If he runs back one for 70 yards and we get up 7-0, then what a good time.
Also, like at the end of the day, with the rule change where, like if it's a touchback, it goes to the 25-yard line anyway.
I hate that rule.
Me too. Like, there's no point. Like, and I know they're trying to stop concussions and collisions, but like, as for a kick return, there's no real kick return. Like, you're not really going to do a lot there. As you say, it's punt return. And then when you look at the good punt returners, like a lot of them now are, you've seen running backs do really well there. You've seen defensive backs do really well there because of the speed that they're running now. Like, I don't know. I just look, and there's people in the live chat saying they're seeing things and hearing things about Ray, in the slot and doing things in Matt Canada's offense. Like, I feel like it may well be true, but I feel like, and I'm well guilty of it too when we talked about Jalen Samuels, and then I've just decided recently that nah. But like, we keep hearing what's going to be in Matt Canada's offense. I can't wait for us to actually get going in Matt Canada's offense because I feel like everyone, every player right now, depending on what you hear, is like looped into doing well in Matt Canada's offense. So, I mean, look, it could be crazy. I can't wait to see what he does with 11 people on the field. Like, I just think it's going to be, I think there's going to be some real, interesting situations there.
We're at the hype of speculation right now. We're so close. We're so close to football, and we're I don't know what we're trying to do. We're just trying to. I'm so excited to see these players, and I really want to be wrong. Like, look, if Ray doesn't go very well this year, I want to be wrong. I would be happy to be wrong. Sorry, Matty.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, I know you're at the half-hour mark, but the other player I was just going to quickly bring up is Rashad Coward there from the Chargers, because I think we can not Chargers, Chicago Bears, that we could quickly talk about. Mark, you've heard the name. He's not really done a hell of a lot, for the Chicago Bears. He interestingly got broken through. I think he was playing video games, or his girlfriend or wife, whatever, was playing video games, and it got released that he was, going to Pittsburgh for a visit. Have you seen much of Rashad Coward? Do you think he can do anything this season for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Look, I'll be very honest. I've seen nothing. I don't know anything about him. I've got no idea. Maybe I should do more research, but there's so many players on this roster. There are 90-odd players. I can't keep up with all of them. Was Coward involved in the fight? Was he one of them, jumping over the top and putting some haymakers in there? If he's one of those blokes, then I'll cheer for him.
Mate, I don't know, but I just have him as surprise because I can't imagine he can slip much unless he slips off the roster. So provided that he makes the roster, and he might be a practice squad guy, but provided he makes, if it's extended to the 16 players, or but yeah, I have him as surprised just because we don't know what we're gonna get.
Well, we don't know who. Like, a lot of them, like at the very, very back end of the depth chart, because there are so many players. So 90 to 53, like 40 of them get cut or whatever. If you go down the rabbit hole and try and chase all these guys' careers down, you get lost. Like, you just don't know who you have. Like, it was a very new team at the moment too. We have a very new O-line, and a lot of our stars like Vince and Pouncey, and those guys and McDonald have left. So this is why I think even last year we missed the preseason, because for fans like me, I want to see these new guys play, and I want to get really attached to them, and then they cut them. We've all been there. Who's our Skipper? Hey, remember Skipper?
Oh, mate, I remember Skipper. Yeah. All right, well, that brings up part one of Steelers Touch Down Under. Well, that was a wild part one. Join us for part two. We're going to continue on with a couple of these players and crack into some audience Q&A as well. We really want to make sure we get through as many questions as we can at the moment. We do have a couple more players to talk about. A couple more players are going to be free agents in 2022. So what can they do for the Steelers in 2021? If you're on the YouTube or Facebook side, just hold with us for a couple of seconds here and we'll be right back. And we're back on Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell, joined by my co-host as always, Marky Davison. Mark, I'm going to throw you a curveball here. We talked about 5 of your players last week and we had an overlap. Was there anyone else that we didn't get to talk about last week before we crack into a couple more players on those lists of impending free agents that I've got?
Yeah.
Is there anyone that you wanted to talk about?
Did we talk about Mason Rudolph?
We didn't, because he's signed through 2022.
Oh, I thought he was free agent next year.
And then he signed that deal, the $5 or so million one a couple months ago. Yeah.
Well, you know what? You might be able to help me this through the season too, because you're the cap guy. We have a lot of cap room available next year, right?
Yep. About $75 million or so, roughly, right now.
Yeah, right. Is there any players that we might bring in who could be a free agent from another team? You think?
Yeah, mate. Are we going to talk about that till the cows come home? I think. I know. I think it's going to be what I will say is I think that the offseason next year, particularly the free agent frenzy, will be pretty interesting because suddenly a whole lot of teams are going to have a whole lot of cap back. And so I think it's interesting to see whether the Steelers, I think they're going to take the latter option, like the part two option about what I'm about to say. You can go out as option one and go try and spend money outside of TJ and Minka and bring in some top guys, or you can sit back and like they kind of do normally and let all the top, the top expensive guys go and then decide on value from there. And I think you might see the Steelers have a big second wave, but equally, I think you're going to sort of see them go look at the option of who are we going to keep from our current roster? We want to keep our homegrown talent, guys that know our system. So, do we bring back guys like Melvin Ingram on, cheap deals if they work out? I think they're the sorts of things that are going to be pretty interesting to see what the Steelers actually do from that perspective. Because, I don't know. Outside of them, obviously we could and we likely will see extension pretty soon. Outside of them, keeping a Hayden or signing, Cam Sutton up for longer, depending on the way he works out potentially. I don't know. I struggle to see the Steelers. I think they'll go out maybe and get a couple of top tackles, particularly if Big Ben's back again, if they can, and if Banner and Chooks don't show up, or maybe they need to go get a really good guard if Trey Turner doesn't work out. But I can't see the Steelers being this, like doing what the Patriots did this year and signing, $60, $70 million worth of players. A, they're not going to have the cap to do that. But B, I don't see them bringing in 5, big names.
What about Juju? Isn't he off contract next year?
Yeah, big time.
Look, honestly, with Juju, I think I've ragged him out a few times, and I said, he needs to develop better character. But I know he's a great person, a great guy on the field. But I just wanted him to buy in. That's what I really wanted him to buy in with the Steelers. And honestly, I thought Juju was heading out of the Steeler town. I really thought he was going. I thought he was going somewhere else, going to sign somewhere else. So if he signs 1 year here, do we extend him, or does he go to a Miami Dolphins?
I have a feeling he'll stay.
They're going to sign him again.
Yeah, and I think, I really want them to. I want Juju to be a Steeler for life. My concern, though, is if you sign Juju, then you're going to have Deontay come up, the following year, and then you've got Claypool. I think it's after that. Are you really going to be able to keep Juju, Claypool, and Deontay as 3 really happy together when you've got Freiermuth and Najee Harris as well? And this is going to be the interesting thing is how do you balance those 3? Because, by then you would hope that Claypool is literally a top 5 to 10, wide receiver in the league. Deontay, if he's, not dropping balls, even off, I think he got 144 targets last year. Even if he had 120, I still think he could do some amazing things there because I think he was going to catch more footballs. Some people are saying Juju will leave and go back to the West Coast where he's from. Maybe, but he didn't necessarily get the interest. And if you look at the Chargers with Herbert, they've got some decent wide receivers there already, quite actually a crowded room, and they need to invest in O-linemen because if they don't have O-linemen, Herbert ain't throwing it to anyone. So, it's going to be interesting. I could see him as a 49er there with Trey Lance, but yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, you're right, Mark. Juju wasn't on my list because we talked about him a lot, but it will be interesting. Do they keep someone like a Juju or do they look at the money elsewhere? And if they're not, then, maybe James Washington is then able to sign a cut price deal. So, but as Portner brings up, we don't really sign wide receivers to second deals. We haven't to date, but we got to remember that Kevin Colbert, who's been, instrumental in developing wide receivers, he's not on contract after next year's draft. So that could shift. And if you're kidding me, I think we're going to be signing Deontay and Claypool to second contract deals. But I want to talk about.
I agree with that, Manny. I agree with Claypool, 100%. I think he'll be second.
Yeah, unless he wants some ridiculous contract number that it's just not in the Steelers situation. But I agree with what Matt B's saying in the live chat about Juju. It's Juju's, and we talked about this a little bit maybe 6-7 weeks ago. And I remember I said to you, Mark, does it make sense for Juju to take less money by $2 or $3 million a year and stay in Pittsburgh where his brand will do well and he can make money outside of football than it does to move across the country, make more money, but his brand overall will suffer? Because that brand is what will make him money when he's finished up, football. So
but
this is the thing.
If he went to like the Las Vegas Raiders or the 49ers, they're pretty big, franchises too, and they're on the West Coast and it's more party out that way. Which Pittsburgh's more family orientated, still mentality. Nothing against Juju. I just think it's similar to what I had with Ben as well. I thought when Ben got injured, I thought he was going to retire, and you get in that mode where like, Juju was saying about leaving, and then he signs for the 1 year, but if they sign him for 3 or 4 years, then he's committed, isn't he? That's going to be a stealer, and a bit like what Vince did. So next year is very, very interesting, and a lot of these players not only playing for a Super Bowl, but they're playing for that second contract.
Yeah.
To bring the bank in and really set up their life. So, look, I get it's all a business, but I think sometimes the fan side of me just wants them to be, have the same passion that I kind of do that matches their skill talent. Like a lot of their skill talent is awesome, but some things I see them doing on the field with the Jujus or the Claypools that are doing the TikToks, and I didn't really agree with it. And then we get smacked by the Bengals because of it. But in that mentality, I'm living in my Steeler world and I'm not taking myself out of that mentality of being that fan as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean there. I think, and that represents, I think, where a lot of fans are sort of sitting there as well, like have that pride in that jersey. And I'm not saying that he doesn't, but I know what you mean. There's that loyalty that you want to see out of it. But for the players as well, it's a business, and just as much as we can criticize them, teams can cut players pretty ruthlessly, and they've got to go, jump on and get passionate about another team. So
I just had a thought, Matty. What if the players had a podcast analyzing us? like, I'm a so-called media guy, I guess, in Australia. But they're like ranking us, and they're like, well, Mark didn't, step up today. And wouldn't that be funny? If they're just like, well, actually, Matty's terrible towel was crooked today. I don't know. This is what's getting to. Are we doing Slinging the Slang today? Because mine goes right into this.
Yeah, let's do Slinging the Slang, and then we can finish up with one last player, and then we can go to audience Q&A. So everyone get your questions loaded up and ready to fire. But yeah, Mark, just as Big Ben likes to sling the rock, we like to sling the slang. What do you got for us today?
Look, I think this whole podcast is seeing what I've been going through and what you're going through with these lockdowns. I'm going Troppo. Have you ever heard of that one, Matty? I'm going Troppo, mate. Have you heard of that?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going crazy,
brutal,
man.
Mate. I did that one about 6 months ago.
Did you? It doesn't matter. Well, you used it for the wrong time. It was the wrong timing, mate. Like, I'm going crazy. So everyone around the world.
Actually, to be fair, sorry to interrupt you. I did it when I asked questions of Jeffrey Benedict when you were away. That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. So we're all involved in these lockdowns, and it's all crazy with the pandemic, and whichever way you see it, whatever, doesn't matter. We're in lockdown at the moment. We have been now for a month, and it's might be extended. And going Troppo just means going crazy, going up north, because when you go up north, it's like 45 degrees every single day. The heat gets to you. You start seeing things in the distance. You start seeing, McDonald's. You're like, oh, is that a McDonald's on the road? No, it's not. It's a kangaroo. There's nothing going up there. I'm going crazy, Matty. So I'm trying to get out of the house as much as I can. But what will help me is the Pittsburgh Steelers coming back.
Well, that's pretty fair. That's pretty fair. Yeah. I've been going a little bit Troppo too. I'm getting over all these things, but let's not crack into that one. So I had a fun one today. So Jeff and Dave were talking about the logo, the Steelers logo, and we talk sometimes about black and gold, and obviously Wiz Khalifa or whatever his name is did that black and yellow song and confuses a lot of international fans. Never confuse me that we're black and gold. But I also thought this week we've had the Olympics kick off in the last 48 hours, and it's a great time. I don't know whether you get into the Olympics much, Mark. I do. I really enjoy it. And Australia always punches generally above our weight in terms of medals per capita. I know the USA often tops the list of medals overall, but if you did it by head count, Australia is always up there. And in fact, actually, America does pretty well by that scale too. But I sort of thought, for anyone that knows Australia, like our flag is, whether people agree with it or they don't agree with it, locally, but it's blue, white and red are our colors of our flag. But when we go on the sporting stage, almost every single time, if not all the time, we're green and gold, right? And people will see that over the Olympics, or you'll see, there's a boxing kangaroo flag that's out there that I know that's, pretty popular among, sports fans of Australia. But I thought, why not talk about what they mean? So for us, the gold actually represents, Australia's beaches, which seems pretty logical, but also the minerals that we have and the grains and harvests and, Australian wool, which is famous in terms of top quality the world over. And the green represents things like eucalyptus forests and, widespread outback green pastures and what have you. So if you ever see green and gold for Australia, now you know what it means. And you're going to see a lot of that with the Olympics. And, for some, Mark, you and I both have met Australian Steeler fans, that, whether they're super passionate or not, that like the black and gold and feel an affinity with the black and gold because we have green and gold. Like I've heard a previous Steeler fan say it to me. Like, honestly, I was a kid, and I saw black and gold. I didn't like Green Bay, and I picked the Steelers for that. So,
interesting you say that because a lot of fans who are in Australia do follow Green Bay because of the green and gold or whatever they have, because it's very similar to our Australian colours. So for me, I just like the colour, like the black and gold. And I was one of those Steeler fans. Yes, I was. I threw my card away. I didn't know what it was. I used to call us black and yellow. Now, there's also another interesting thing as well. The Saints call themselves black and gold. But I can see how that is we are more of, I guess, a yellow, but the idea of us is black and gold. That's what we are. It's our football.
But the gold for the Steelers is very similar to the gold. The problem for Australia is a lot of the uniforms now are like yellow because, fluoro sort of colors are in. But if you look at traditional Aussie sports uniforms, the gold of Australia, like the gold of the Wallabies rugby jersey, for example, is so similar, in terms of the name and tone to the gold of the Steelers as well. It's just
100%. Yeah, you're right. With the Wallabies too, they have a really strong gold or gold yellow kind of look. You know what though? It is visually pleasing to look at the Steeler jersey.
It is.
Did you see the new Browns jerseys came out today?
I haven't seen the new Browns jerseys, but I'm sure they look like toilet paper.
No, it's just like, you don't even want to look at them. There's so much white on their jersey. One's like Rashay, TJ, Ingram, Sack, Baker Mayfield. It's going to be covered in grass stains. They come out with a new one, but yeah, look, I'm
trying to find it. Funny. I want to see what this toilet paper looks like.
It's like 1975 Browns new jersey.
Hey, it looks like one of the recent Bengals jerseys. Are they kidding? It looks awful.
Yeah, even the Bengals jersey this year looks really horrible. And there was one
looks better than that.
Big play Will Gay was on his Instagram, and he said they're doing them a disservice because they change their jersey every single year, a little bit like how the NRL does here in Australia. But we won't go into that. But the Pittsburgh Steelers have had our jersey pretty similar for the same color scheme forever, and you just can't change that. It's worldwide. Like, we've said before, when we go wear our jersey at the airport or down the road or wherever in another country, you could be in Thailand wearing a jersey, and someone's going to run into you.
Yeah.
And say, hey, mate, you follow the Steelers? You're like, yeah, mate, I'm an owner. No, you don't say that. But, like, it's just I run the team. In my head, I do. Yeah, look, you got to love this. This is why I think you put pride in the jersey as well when you wear it. And I know that we've had a big debate as well about how you won't buy a jersey with your name on it. Can we bring that up again? Because let's inform some of the newer listeners. Like, what's your reason that you won't put your name on the back of a Steeler jersey?
So I grew up with I only own one sports jersey with my name on the back of it because it's more of a like a classic jumper sort of style, and it's an old version. And it's more of a crew neck, and I'm an Arsenal fan in the Premier League, so I have an old school like 1950 sort of jersey that's got name on the back just because it's super old school. But yeah, I had Mark's bringing up. I think the Father's Day podcast we did. That's when I talked about it. But I basically grew up under the notion that you don't put your own name on the back of a jersey. Now, Mark's different. If a Davison, or like Bad's different because Davis would be different because there's Carlos Davis on the team. And if there was, then maybe I'd be tempted to forfeit. But I was brought up on the whole notion of, unless you've played for the team, you don't put your name on the back of the jersey. Now, it doesn't mean I don't put names. Like obviously, I've got numbered jerseys and what have you, and greats across every sport. And I put numbers. For instance, Mark, in the NRL, I got some of the classic Manly jerseys for the team that we support, and I put numbers on the back of those for key players in those years because you can put them on yourself with the way they do those jerseys. But yeah, I will never put my own name on the back of the jersey because I haven't earned the right to represent that jersey.
See, I love that. I love that so much. I love that take because you're a man who stands on his word and says, I could probably offer you a jersey and you would deny it, then I would be heartbroken. I'd be like, mate, I'm trying to be your friend. Like, I'm trying to give you a jersey. And you'd be like, nah, mate, don't do that. I'm just, I never played for them. I never played one step, one down. So, and that makes a lot of sense. Now, we could almost, retract Gentry's jersey, really, because he's only caught one ball.
But he still caught the ball, though. This is the thing. He still caught the ball. And even if I was to be honest, right, even if let's say I was a Rooney, I still probably wouldn't put my name on the back of the jersey because it's just not what it's just not what
But no, I do love that take. So, like for me, when I got my first jersey, my best friend got me my 21st birthday, my name on the back, and it was my jersey, and I was like, "This is awesome." It's like,
see, that's different though. Like that's like you've been given a gift like that, but yeah,
no, I completely understand it. I really do because it's in that mentality of like it's the franchise, and you got to earn your right for those, to wear the Steelers logo. Oh, that's the wrong side. And then that's really trippy. My fan card is gone now. It's never on the right hand side. What am I doing? And it's even to the point as well that with the Steelers logo that I try to touch down on the jersey on the wrong side, in the locker room, you can't walk over that logo. So these are traditions that will never be broken.
100%.
And that's why I like your take on it too.
Yeah, and it's like the American flag not being allowed to touch the ground. Like, my gosh, I wish Australians took the same pride in the flag. Like
I did that, Matty, when I was working at the RSL, Returned Servicemen's League. I would draw the flags down, and I think something comes in the back of your mind is just that respect your elders kind of idea, respect Australia. And then we had old blokes walking past the pub, and I took down 4 flags, and never once did I ever let it touch the ground. Not once. I wrapped it around my shoulders, folded up like you're meant to, and then you put it in the basket and it goes away. So that's something that really it comes into sport and with the Olympics as well is taking pride in your nation and taking pride in Steeler Nation. And I think that the team, a little bit going to the playoffs, we have missed that a tiny bit. Yeah. But they're fired up every year. And look, maybe the Jaguars and the Browns just got us and somehow Blake Bortles beat us. But taking pride in the jersey is just a fantastic thing to do, and it's why we go out and buy them. And I know that I saw in the Slack channel today you were thinking about getting Melvin. His name is so hard to pronounce. You were thinking about getting Ingram's jersey, right? And he's the only player with number a single digit.
I want to get his jersey because he plays a position that's number 8 in rugby is the same sort of style on defense that he plays. I love the idea of getting a Melvin Ingram 8, but I'm not a fan of Kobe Bryant in any way, shape, or form. So the fact that I heard there was an article today that apparently it's related to Kobe Bryant, I'm like, hell no, I'm not getting that jersey. Well, also, Matty, don't. And it goes back to what you were saying. Sorry, it was going back to what you were saying before about wanting to be a Steeler. cut ties with LA, mate. You're on the Steelers roster. We don't want any ties with LA.
Well, I've got a good point because I looked up a lot of the Steelers, actually all of them besides Ingram, didn't change their number position to the previous year, even with the option to do so. I looked it up last week. Ingram's the only one, and I was kind of hoping he would choose a 50 number. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like the Steelers mentality has kept the Jack Hams and Lamberts, all their numbers are 50 odd, the Farriers, and now we have a linebacker who's 8. It kind of looks a little bit funny, and I wish that he didn't choose that single digit number. And even though the rules are letting people change their numbers to anything they want to be, you can almost put, you can put the Steel logo on the back. You can do whatever you want really with the numbers. I kind of wish that he would have chosen a higher number.
Why?
I just think, well, no other Steeler changed their number. Like if they wanted to, not one.
Yeah, but he's coming into the team fresh, so he's allowed to.
Yeah, I know, but like he's the first person to really do so. Like there are other guys like Devin Bush could have been number 10, right? There's a lot of guys on teams that changed their number.
But Devin Bush number 10 would be cool because you got picked there as well.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
I just can't get out of my old-fashioned ways of seeing, guys like Foot, Farrier. Like I love the linebacking core and there's higher numbers.
I don't know. Like, look, don't get me wrong. I don't want to see a wide receiver with like 99, right? But like, at the same time, like, I don't mind defensive backs being in the single digits. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's hard. There's one player I wanted to cover off, and then we can go to a couple of questions just super quickly. Mark, is Miles Killebrew born May 10, a day after me? We know him from the Lions. We know he can sort of play, linebacker, a bit of strong safety. He's a bit of a really good special team man. I think he's going to do. Actually, I personally think he'll surprise for the Steelers, but just from what you've seen so far, if anything, do you think that he'll star, surprise, or slip? And then we've got a bunch of questions to crack into.
Yeah, just quickly so we get the questions. I hope he surprises. I hope he does a lot of good things on special teams. He's a veteran with the Lions. He's a pretty hard hitter. I know that from some of the highlights I've seen him hit.
I'm a fan.
Killebrew, cool name, really cool name. That's one I would, if I had a bit of coin, I would add to my jersey collection. I would like to see him really stop the return game and force some fumbles. We need those splash plays.
Yeah, no, I love it. You put it better than what I was going to do it. Now, Mark, George Teston, Felicia's jumped in the live chat as always, and George Teston's done Dave's "Hey Felicia." I want you to have a go at doing it. I think you'll do it really well.
Hey. That was too natural. We're hanging out.
Yeah, what have you been doing, mate? There's a question about the Cleveland Indians changing their baseball name. I don't know. Like, I don't really want to get into this battle. I think if you're not, a Native American Indian, your opinion's kind of got to be measured on it. I don't know. Like, it's not a Pittsburgh team. It's not, I think their name is probably a harder one for people to digest than, the Chiefs or even, to a degree, maybe the Washington football team. I don't know. I don't know what. I think it's the Guardians they're going to call them now. Yeah, I don't really get it.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. I'm not a Cleveland baseball, fan. I'm not a Cleveland fan of any team. I'm a Pirates fan. From the limited baseball input I have, but I don't know. It's not really one for me to have an opinion on, I don't think.
For my take, Matty, what I can say is until baseball, puts on shoulder pads and starts, running routes and, start tackling each other, then I won't watch it. So it's not my game.
Imagine that, tackle baseball instead. Like they're going into the like to home base and you just like nudge them with a shoulder charge. That'd be great. But I did want to bring up.
That'd be fun to watch.
I did want to bring up Richard's other watch. I did want to bring up Richard's other question, which was about OU and Texas. So Richard might know that I'm a Texas Longhorns fan in the college football. I don't wear anything Texas. Actually, sometimes I wear my Texas track pants when I'm doing touchdown under. But look, I don't know about this because I think they've been blocked now, and now the Big 12 is talking about their revenue. Look, let's just see how this one plays out. But I think, Texas deserves to play against the top teams. And, some people can tell me that are teams in the Big 12. But at the end of the day, they haven't played that well for a few years now. So, I mean, you've got to think about these things. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how that one plays out more than anything. The frustrating thing for me is it's really hard because I don't get to watch as many Longhorns games as I want to, through the way the contracts go with the broadcasting deals. So college football is a tough one for us. You rarely can follow, even if you've got a team, you don't really get to see all their games, which is pretty frustrating. But Snowman brings up a super chat as always. Thank you very much for the $5 in the tip jar there, Snowman. Have either of you seen a Canadian Football League game? No.
I have, but I don't. It's so hard to watch. The rules are so different. They get three downs. Every player on the offense can move before the snap. No, don't like it.
Did you hear Martavius Bryant's playing in the Canadian Football League?
Doesn't matter. Thanks, Snowman. We really appreciate you, but I don't watch Canadian Football League. No, mate. Sorry, mate. Love you, mate, but no, thank you.
Matt B brings up, Matty, with the 75 mil cap, is it really less because of all the can kicking we did, or is it 75 million already counting money that we kicked down the road? Yeah, so that factors in all the latest, the voidable years and stuff. So including like Ben's voidable, year number for 2022 as well there of the pro rata bonus. He's an actual cap number that year will be about 10 million. But as I've said all off season with this 75 million, I think right now it's actually 72. And this is projected on the cap going to 206.2 million, I think it is. It could be higher than that, depending on revenues and if things stay open. But I know the Delta strain is ripping through America in a lot of states, just like it is here. So whether fans are attending, full capacity in every game of the season, who knows? But you've got the 17th game with the bigger revenues. But as I've said all off season, the $75 million, and I said it's 72.6 right now, according to Over the Cap, you've got to remember that TJ very soon will probably take anywhere between 28 to 30 million of that. So suddenly we've got 45 mil. Then you think Minka's going to take somewhere around that 12 mark, give or take, a couple million either side. So again, then you're looking at more like 33 million. If Ben's back, he's not going to be making anything less than 20 unless they redo voidable years. So, when we look at this, there's probably 20-ish million of that we can actually use. And again, we may want to re-sign guys that, we've brought in on the cheap this year. So I think when we talk about the 75, we've just got to be a little bit careful there in terms of thinking that the Steelers right now, while we're still top of the league in terms of available cap, what it actually looks like, even in 3 or 4 weeks' time, potentially once TJ signed a mega deal, if he does, and even, Minka to a degree, that number is going to be a bit different. But, as I said, I was tempering the expectations a little bit earlier. I do definitely see the Steelers trying to get at least one, fairly big name. I think we'll need to. But yeah, it'll be really interesting, and I can't wait to be talking about that, next year. And then Snowman also...
Matty. You missed Steelers Pittsburgh. He's calling someone a dingo. I can't pronounce that next word. Derogatory. There we go. There's my English. Is that in Australia? Nah, it doesn't mean much.
Derogatory in a sentence.
Yeah, I'd struggle. It just means you dingo. It just doesn't mean anything. It just means you're an idiot. It doesn't mean there's nothing.
But I will say drongo for something like that.
Oh yeah, you drongo. We haven't used that yet.
Drongo. Snowman says, do you see the Steelers trading Benny Snell to the Rams? Look, there was a bit of hype about that earlier in the week. Actually, before I get into that, Mark, what do you reckon? Do you reckon we trade Benny Snell?
No, I don't think so. I don't think the Steelers do that. It depends who they get back.
Yeah, so for me, I did talk about it a little bit in War Room this week in the first part. So if you want to go back and give us a download on that one, it's in the first sort of 5 minutes of that. I focused on that, Benny Snell. The thing about Benny Snell, like, Najee's not going to play 17 games. So if you're sitting there thinking Najee's going to play the full 17 games of this season, I hate to disappoint you right now. It's not going to happen. And if it does, he's not playing major snaps in every one of those 17 games. So we can, and one of them, he might just be there for a couple of, passing plays if he's, if anything. And then other than that, he'll be sitting out. But I expect him to sit out a couple of games, whether it's niggling injury or Steelers resting him. And I think if it's resting him, that's great. You need someone there to back it up. And can that be McFarland when he's the change of pace guy? A lot of people saying Balaj is, showing up in training camp. Look, if the Steelers feel that Benny Snell is worth a 4th rounder, then I think you do look at trading him to LA. However, there's 2 players on the LA team that are on a comparable salary cap amount, and that's Jordan Fuller and Terrell Burgess, and they're both safeties. Jordan Fuller is more of a free safety. Burgess is more of a strong safety. I'm a big fan of Burgess, and I think he could do very well in the Steelers defense. So if we're going to trade Snell, I actually wouldn't be going out to get a pick. As I said in War Room, I'd actually be going out to get Terrell Burgess there, because we've got Edmonds, out of contract, next year. We haven't picked up his 5th-year option. Then you put Burgess on a rookie contract. Suddenly that $72 million we talked about, there's something like $2 or $3 million now that we've just added into the cap, and we don't have to re-sign anyone. So, yeah, from my perspective, when it comes to Benny Snell, look at the player that you might be able to get that will help out the Pittsburgh Steelers rather than a draft pick, because we're going to have some compensatory picks. I know we lost a 4th to move up and get Loudermilk in the 5th this year, but yeah, if we're going to trade Benny Snell, I want us to improve somewhere or build depth at a key position. So that's sort of what I'm seeing from, that perspective at the moment. And then I think for the final question there, George Teston says, do you guys have a roo guard on your vehicles? I don't have a roo guard, I actually don't have a car. My partner has a car at the moment. We'll be getting one, but we don't need a roo guard on our vehicle.
It's so funny because where we both live, kangaroos are probably about 2 hours away, I guess, really inland.
Oh no, not for me. Not for me.
You don't reckon?
National Park, I'll buy maybe half an hour.
Well, why aren't you going out there and feeding them?
Well,
should
I'm
be
letting them chill out on their own.
Should be out there every weekend feeding them pellets. And
I'm busy looking after all our other animals. We got enough animals. I don't actually. My partner does, but we got enough. My dog Mark. I got enough troubles looking after him.
A bit like Burke's backyard for any Australian listeners, and for the Americans.
You can't bring up Burke's backyard, mate. That's
he was one of those ones. My bad. Don't search
Marky D. Felicia throws in a super chat to close out the show. $20. Thank you very much, Felicia. Mark, you got to do it again now. You got to close out the show with it.
I'll try and do an Australian version. G'day.
You got to do it again. I interrupted you with the lag.
G'day. Is that how you do it? Jeez.
I don't know.
Thank you for the $20, and that's probably my last because I like saying "good day" better and go Steelers. But that's awesome. $20,
holy dooly, holy demon.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't know. I just like saying "holy demon." I did it last week, and I remember listening to it because I always listen back to our show, to check out what we can improve and stuff. And I was listening to us go pretty Aussie last week, so it was pretty funny. But
I'll be better next week. I'll be better next week for sure.
Be better.
Yeah, well, I think I was off my game. I was going Troppo today. I was off my game.
I was a bit off my game at the start. I think if the players were doing the podcast that you mentioned, they would have given us a 7 out of 10 for today.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, that wraps up Steelers Touchdown Under for another week. Thank you for joining us through these dog days of July, these dog days of summer, as Jeff Hartman likes to say. Guys, we're getting guys and gals, we're getting closer to the preseason. We're getting closer to the season. We're getting closer to watching Steelers football. Marky D, as always, close out the show.
Go Steelers.